Are we having fun or what? Hey, you! What's your name, Skank? You don't feel that?
I feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook.
I feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook. Well, boy, your mama must be damn proud of you.
Hey, yo, what the hell's going on, friends? Welcome back to episode 29, part 2 in Madness Pod, The Crow, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's Shawn the Butcher, here with Vertebrae33. How the hell you doing?
What's happening, Shawn? How you doing? Everything okay? You
Yes,
making it through this movie?
Yes, again, I may even get emotional during this movie. I almost got damn near emotional in our previous episode. I hope you got a chance to check it out. Thank you for all of your interaction on the socials at In Madness Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. And our next episode, we are diving into the mail sack. If you would like to contribute to this show, we will read your emails on air in madnesspod@gmail.com. You could check out this podcast on YouTube as well, in case we're showing off our 4K Blu-rays. I don't know if you're going to show yours off now or later.
Oh yeah, I can show it, but we should get into just the beginning stuff, and then I'll
Yes, of course. Make sure you follow us on YouTube to see all the cool stuff we have. Give us the 5 stars and the likes and the comments. Follow the In Madness Spotify playlist, which we post brand new songs into after every episode. The Crow, one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite soundtracks. We have already added a bunch of songs from this soundtrack. We will be adding more at the end of this episode as well. Happy In Madness Monday, if that is indeed when you are listening. Tell everybody you know about this podcast. Spread the In Madness tentacles worldwide. And if you want a brand new In Madness podcast t-shirt, go to inmadness.com. Thank you, everybody who's already purchased shirts, and thank you, everybody who will be purchasing after this amazing closer to our Crow episode.
Absolutely. And the lead up to this episode had you and I on an international chase for this 4K Blu-ray that I was supposed to receive. We're getting text updates. We've got carrier pigeon bringing information to me, and it did arrive, and it arrived in time. And it's great. I'm going to hold it up. You can see.
Look at that. We are going to be posting all this on our socials.
The slipcover, the crows through it, and then it's a steel book, so it's hard. Oh, there you go. You can see it pretty good there.
Oh my god!
And zips over the top. So there are a few extras on there that aren't on anything else. There's an interview with James O'Barr, James O'Barr is a genuine character. He is, and this story, we didn't get into it before, but James O'Barr tells the story of falling in love with this girl. And he's kind of an interesting guy, and like the rest of us artists, keep to themselves and do their own thing. But he finds love, falls in love with this girl. Jump forward, she's killed by a drunk driver, and that's what sets this path off for him to write this story. And the murder of them in the comic is, they're like broken down on the side of the road, and they come upon them and take care of them there. So there's that whole like building thing, and all that doesn't exist in the comic as far as the storyline goes with the business and everything. But so that's on there too. And it sounds great. It looks great. They didn't take a ton of the film grain out. The problem with some of these 4Ks is they'll clean them up too much, and it'll get too smooth looking, and then it just doesn't look right. So it's like that fine line of it being beautiful and accurate, but also keeping enough of that grain in it. So this is a really cool version. It's the 30th anniversary edition of The Crow, because we're 30 years out since the movie came out. Either, I think May 11th is when it came out. There's some listings that it was May 13th. So, but I don't know. It would have been weird probably to have this come out on Friday the 13th, considering what had happened leading into it. But maybe that was, and maybe the 13th was just like the advanced screenings or something. So 1994, and we are very 1994 in this movie. And I'm excited to jump back in because we are close we're very close to me taking us down a weird theory path.
I can't wait. Let's get there. Let's get there. To recap what we did in our first episode, we got a man, we got a woman, Eric and Shelley. She's raped and killed. He's thrown out a window, dies, both of them. We got our good cop, Albrecht, on the case, and the couple's friend, Sarah, a young teen, skateboarding through the streets of what I'm calling Gotham. It said if love is strong enough and the cause of death so unjust, a crow can bring someone back to life to right the wrongs. And Eric has been resurrected, crawled out of his grave to learn he has crow superpowers. He's pretty much invincible. He's out to avenge his girl's death, and he has begun offing one of the 4 goons involved with the incident. Tintin, who got his knife stuck in all his major organs in alphabetical order, one guy down. Eric has now found the hideout of the second goon, Fun Boy, who's banging Sarah's mom and shooting up morphine. The couple are high as a kite, and Eric creeps into Fun Boy's room and scares the crap out of him. Fun Boy pulls out his gun. Eric puts his hand over the barrel, and Fun Boy pulls the trigger. This is where we left you on our last episode of In Madness Pod. Eric jumps up from the chair and begins screaming. Fun Boy tells him, bingo, he shoots, he scores. Then we see Eric's face. He's almost laughing. He's overselling, as we call it. Then turns around and, still screaming, lifts up his hands and looks through the hole in it and lets out a celebratory scream as the hole seals itself up, and astonished, Fun Boy says, Jesus Christ.
And then we get a Jesus Christ joke.
To which Eric replies, Jesus Christ, stop me if you heard this one. Jesus Christ walks into a hotel. Fun Boy shoots Eric again. The wound seals back up. Eric says, ow. Fun Boy laughs at him. Eric says he hands the innkeeper 3 nails and he asks, pow. Fun Boy shoots him again and screams, don't you ever fucking die? Eric finishes the joke and hits us with the punchline. Can you put me up for the night? He slaps the gun in Fun Boy's hand, which causes Fun Boy to shoot himself in the leg. And I love this line. In pain, gunshot wound to his leg, high on morphine, bleeding all over the place. Fun Boy says, look what you've done to my sheets, and passes out.
That's like I think that's probably one of the funniest lines in the entire movie. Hate Fun Boy, but funny line.
Maybe that's why his name's Fun Boy. Eric grabs him by the leg and drags him into the bathroom where Darla is now hiding. Eric gets flashbacks of Fun Boy raping Shelley. We see Darla grab a straight razor off the toilet bowl. Eric puts Fun Boy in the shower, turns on the cold water. He turns around toward Darla and menacingly heads right toward her. She's screaming and thrashing to stay away from her. Eric grabs the blade and throws it. He grabs Darla and puts her over, brings her over to a mirror. Horrifyingly, he pulls back her head and says, look. And says, mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children. Do you understand? And we get a close-up shot of her arm with needle marks in it, and the drugs begin dripping out of her wounds. Eric says morphine is bad for you. He lets her go. She turns around and looks at him horrified. He grabs her by the face and says, your daughter is out there on the streets waiting for you. He guides her to the door. She takes one last look at Fun Boy crying and runs out. Eric picks up a needle near a bag of drugs and takes a long look at it.
And you know what's weird too, Shawn? And this is where you'll be like, this is not what I was thinking when I watched this scene at all. But first of all, the absolutely disgusting bathroom, like the grossest bathroom ever. But there's like a hot water tank right at the next to the tub, which is really strange. But if you notice, you watch it again, there's a shower curtain hanging up. It's like a clear shower curtain. And that thing is spotless clean. Spotless clean. Like maybe they just bought it or something. I don't even know. I always think it's weird those kind of standalone tubs where you got to pull the shower curtain like all the way around and stuff. But I mean, these walls are just disgusting. Stuff's dripping everywhere. Just I don't know how much they pay for this place, or maybe he doesn't pay. Maybe there's a job benefit, like you get a free room and board if you work for the gang. If you sell the most insurance to anybody in the fire insurance to anybody in Detroit.
T-Bird is insurance.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, what an absolutely disgusting bathroom, and what a moment for Darla to have, so if he does have a superhero moment in this movie, this is it.
What I
because
love
he's
about
saving her life and her daughter's life.
What I love about this scene is it's not daytime horror, but it's almost like daytime horror because everything in this movie happens in really dark atmosphere. And in this bathroom scene, the lights are on, that they're
Mhm.
like LEDs, they're bright as hell, and you could really see the detail on Eric's face. And like it's wild how like well lit and well shot it is. It's like the brightest shot in the whole movie.
Right, and the drugs dripping out and stuff, which is a pretty cool effect that they do, and, she's not that likable of a character either, but she becomes more likable when she's at least attempting to be mom later on, and I'd like to think that they, go on to have a fantastic life together.
We cut to Gideon. He's in bad shape. He's burnt up. He's angrier than usual. He's futzing around trying to drink this glass of whiskey. In the background, another one of my favorite songs off this soundtrack is playing Milk Toast by Helmet, adding that now to the In Madness playlist on Spotify.
Mm.
Gideon angrily chucks the ice from his glass and says, "If I wanted ice, I would have asked for ice. Now fill it up." The bartender slams a bottle on the table and says, "Fill it up yourself, macho man." Grange grabs the bottle and pours Gideon a drink. Grange asks if Gideon burnt himself playing with matches. Gideon tells him to fuck off. Grange tells him he has an appointment. Gideon says, "This is a first. Do I bow or curtsy?" Darla runs downstairs and out the door in a panic. The bartender says, "Good night, Darla." And Grange looks around confused, like, why is she running out in a panic? Grange tells Gideon to stay put and slams his hat on his head. Upstairs, Funboy is waking up in the cold shower. Eric pulls him out, and again, another crazy line. Eric is on top of Funboy, holding a needle, and Funboy whispers to him, "You're wasting it," because
Mm.
Eric's about to inject all of his drugs inside of him.
Mm.
Grange heads upstairs and finds Funboy on the floor, a bunch of needles in his chest, and looks over, and there is Eric on the edge of the window. He looks at Grange and says, "Shh," then falls back out of the window and vanishes. Grange runs to the window and looks at all over, but he sees nothing. He approaches Funboy as he's overdosing with a crow drawn in blood on his chest.
He put his signal on
The bat signal.
him.
We cut to Sergeant Albrecht at home smoking a cigarette in his underwear with his police hat, looking at checking out Eric's band photos. He hears his floor creak. He goes out to inspect and sees an open window, and from behind him we see Eric sneak out and he screams, "Freeze!" Shocked, Albrecht jumps, drops his beer, and screams, "Jesus, don't ever do that, man." Eric picks up the picture of him with the makeup Albrecht drew on the picture and says, "Good likeness." Albrecht says, "I saw your body. You died. You got buried." Eric says, "You still have your hat on." Albrecht needs to have a sit. He's speechless. Eric grabs a beer out of the fridge. Albrecht asks, "Are you some kind of ghost?" Eric looks at him and smiles and goes, "Boo," and opens the beer and he hands it to Albrecht. Eric sits down and says, "I don't know what I am. I need you to tell me what happened to us." He says, "You took a 6-story swan dive out of a window. Shelley was beaten and raped, died at the hospital." And Eric looks horrified. Albrecht says, "You asked, read the file. 30 hours intensive care. Body finally gave up. I saw it. I couldn't do a thing for her." He goes to grab the files and hand them to Eric, but Eric slowly lifts his hands and puts them on Albrecht's face, and he sees a flashback of Shelley in the ICU. He freaks out. Albrecht goes to grab him, and Eric screams, "Don't touch me," because he's like Rogue and he doesn't want to take his powers. Albrecht asks if he's okay. Eric says, "He saw her. I saw her through your eyes. You stayed with her the whole time." Albrecht was hoping she would come out of it and give him something to work with. He lights a cigarette. Eric asks why Albrecht didn't do something about it. He says, "You think anybody in the building, even the ones who signed the petition, would talk after what happened to you?" He says he kept asking questions and finally got busted for sticking his nose where it didn't belong. He looks at a picture of on Albrecht's table of him and a lady and asks if it's his wife. Albrecht says they're getting a divorce. Eric says, "Little things used to mean so much to Shelley. I used to think they were trivial. Believe me, nothing is trivial." He grabs a cigarette out of Albrecht's mouth, takes a puff, and says, "You shouldn't smoke these. They'll kill you." Albrecht asks if he's going to vanish into thin air, and horribly sad, Eric responds, "I thought I'd use your front door." Albrecht says he's sorry as hell for what happened to Eric and Shelley, and even sadder, Eric says, "Yeah," and puts his head down and walks out the door, to which Albrecht replies, "Yeah."
And there's a lot to unpack in this scene. So it's an emotional scene. Uh, So are we led to believe that what got him in trouble at work was investigating this too much.
Correct.
Okay, so it all hinges on that particular case. It probably wasn't the first time he's done that. I assume he probably seems like he's that type of person. So, maybe it was the icing on the cake as far as that concerned. And then we get to the wife. So they're split up. I think I guess this would be his bachelor pad that he's in. I'm thrown off by the scene when you watch it again, Shawn. If you notice on the couch, there's a basketball and a trombone just sitting on the couch. And I like this emotional scene, and it's just like, I'm gonna play some hoops and I gotta sit down and I'm not gonna take my hat off or walk around in my underwear, play the trombone and stare at these photos. I fill it in, my head canon fills it in that he is too obsessed with his job. And that may be what has led to, and or if he's married and he's always obsessed with his job and then he pushes it too far and he gets, demoted or whatever. If he's in a relationship, maybe his wife the whole time's like, hey, you take this stuff too far, you take it too far. And then boom, he's demoted. And she's like, see, I told you, if I fill that in, that's kind of that, like, it seems like he has regret. And it feels like to me that he could have been maybe better. I'm reading a lot into this, but there's a part later on which I read a lot into as well, his mannerisms on something. But it seems like, there's some regret in that relationship. And I'd like to think that they get back together.
Very much like Somerset. There's kind of that same vibe going on with the obsession with
Yes.
the work and the destroyed relationships because of it. But now that I'm thinking back, so because when they're at the house and they're taking Shelley out, Torres tells Albrecht, no wonder they took away your gold shield. So he got in trouble before this Eric
Right.
trade.
You're right. So then
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense, but it does lead to the path of he's been doing this for a while and he was already demoted at that time for whatever being too obsessed with certain cases. I'd like to think being obsessed with cases that probably have something to do with Top Dollar's gang. And if he's connected with the cops and everyone else, it's like, hey, you can do this stuff, but stay away from here. Like, don't sniff around too much and get yourself in trouble.
Cut back to Top Dollar's Mob Hangout. Another one of my favorite songs on this soundtrack is playing Pantera, The Badge, also adding to the In Madness playlist. Gideon is screaming, I got stabbed, I shot the son of a bitch, I watched a bullet hole close by itself, and my shop got blown up. Other than that, my day sucked. Grains says he saw him too. He had a guitar. He winked at me before he jumped out a fourth floor window like he had wings. And Top says he winked at you. Pff, musicians.
Yeah.
Top wants to know more, but Gideon hasn't heard shit about what Top's going to do about it. Gideon wants to know what he gets out of this. Top says, you ain't lost everything. Gideon makes a risky move and says, maybe you're not such a big shot either. He goes to get up and Grange pushes him back down and Top says, fair enough. Catch, and tosses Gideon an eyeball. Say hello to the last fella who wouldn't cooperate with me. All the power in the world resides in the eyes, sometimes more useful than the people who bear them. Top goes to an enormous vault, opens it up, full of weapons, guns, knives, swords. Gideon screams, you're directly out of your fucking mind. And Top says, I see. One of the most important things I've learned from my sister. Gideon says, your sister, and laughs. Top says, my father's daughter. That's right. You don't see the resemblance? Top puts the blade to Gideon's face and says, take it from the top. Gideon says he had a bird with him. He told me to tell T-Bird death was on its way. Draven, Eric Draven. Want to relax that sword now? Top says, this Birdman just happened to let you live, huh? Top asks Gideon if he's making this all up to save his ass. Gideon says, I'm not twisted like you two fucks. Top says, okay, he eases off of Gideon. He says, a boy and his bird, awful touching. And all the men begin to laugh. And Top stabs him through his goddamn throat with the sword. Gideon is twitching in his chair, and Top says, for fuck's sake, die. And he goes over to Grange and says, give me that thing. And he hands him his gun. Top pumps bullets into Gideon's chest. He paces back to Grange and politely says, thanks. Grange says, Fun Boy said he saw a blackbird too, a big one. Then he choked to death on his own blood. And then he says he'll send up the janitor. Cut to Gabriel the cat in the apartment eating cat food, and we hear a sad-sounding Slash-style guitar solo ringing throughout Gotham City as the sirens are blaring through the streets. Yes, we do. We have established that this is in Detroit. Which one of you Motor City motherfuckers? I get it. I get we're in Detroit. We're in Gotham City, Detroit.
Also, gotta feel like the guys who made Stranger Things kind of really like these guitar playing scenes. If you saw the last season of Stranger Things, yeah, very interesting.
Sarah goes back home, goes to a record collection, pulls out Eric's band's record, Hangman's Joke. She drops the needle on the song Fire in the Rain. The crow lands on her window. She remembers it from the graveyard. It flies away, and when she turns around, the record is skipping on the lyric, It Can't Rain All the Time.
And I don't have that on vinyl, and I thought what a really cool movie prop would be to just have that song with that album cover. If they released that album cover exactly, and that album with maybe that song and a couple other songs from the soundtrack. I guess you could release the soundtrack like that, but you could just do a single of that one song of his band. That'd be pretty cool.
I agree. The crow flies up to T-Bird and Skank walking in the street. They are freaked out that Tintin got turned into a voodoo doll, to which Skank simply replies, Tintin's a dick.
Agreed.
In memory of Tintin, T-Bird and Skank do a fired up chant for their lost friend. T-Bird looks at his watch and says, no Fun Boy, so they don't know Fun Boy is dead yet.
Mm-hmm.
Skank says Fun Boy's probably still banging away on Darla. T-Bird sends Skank into the bodega for some smokes and road beers. T-Bird goes to his fancy car. Skank is just causing havoc in this store, grabbing everything, tearing open bags of chips, eating everything. T-Bird gets in his car and he lights his cigar, and the crow lands on his car engine. And like Michael Myers in Halloween and the Riddler in Batman, Eric Draven rises out of the back seat and points a gun at T-Bird's face. T-Bird asks, what the fuck are you supposed to be, man? And Eric says, I'm your passenger. He removes T-Bird's cigar and gun and says, drive.
So, you ready for this, Shawn?
Go ahead. I'm waiting. I'm patiently waiting.
Maybe I'm going to disappoint you in this one. Maybe. I don't know. But okay. He says, I'm your passenger.
Mm-hmm.
So right when he says that, for the first time after seeing this movie many, many times, suddenly the Deftones song pops into my head.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Passenger. The lyrics, here I lay, still and breathless, just like Eric Draven was.
Mm-hmm.
Just like always, still I want more. Mirrors sideways, who cares what's behind? So we've already had the broken mirror in the movie, and he puts the mask on. Just like always, still your passenger. Chrome buttons, buckles, and leather surfaces. So that could be alluding to the car, obviously, or his goth outfit. These and other lucky witnesses. And I would say probably the cop is the lucky witness, and so is Darla, because she witnesses this, but then she makes it out safe. Now to calm me this time, won't you please drive faster? And they go speeding away. And then Maynard kicks in with his chorus on this song, right? Roll the window down. The cool night air is curious. Let the world look in. Who cares? Who sees anything? I'm your passenger. I'm your passenger. I won't sing like Ray. And it ends with the line, they say, take me to the edge in the song. And how does it end for this character? We're going to find out, and it involves the edge of something. So I don't know. I have no idea. Probably not. I looked it up. I found one other person in a random Reddit who posted years ago this same thought. So I found one other person on the planet Earth that was aligned in my thinking on this. But when you really pull this song apart, it's very interesting. And I think it definitely has to be added to the Spotify playlist.
I have two questions for you. Even though it's not on the soundtrack, can I please add that song to the In Madness Spotify playlist? Because it is one of my favorite Deftones songs.
Yes. And also reminded me, I've seen the Deftones a bunch of times, but I don't know if you saw them when they toured with Dillinger Escape Plan.
I was at Best Buy Theater.
Yep. And when they would do this song, the singer of Dillinger would come out and do the Maynard parts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
My second question, do you know what apparently this song is said to be about?
I saw it and now I forget it because I got so deep into my own thing and I didn't want to hear it. I did like a no, 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 I can't hear it. But you could tell me now.
About getting a blowjob in a car, they say is
Oh,
what Passenger is about.
oh,
So it's funny
okay.
listening to your perspective on it and their perspective on it because they both kind of fit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna say
Oh,
mine
I'm
is
adding
better.
it to the In Madness playlist either way, and we're adding it because of The Crow. Yeah, adding so
Yeah.
many great songs because of this movie. Oh my God! Please on the second Crow movie, on the soundtrack for that movie, Deftones have a song called "Teething," and it's one of my favorite Deftones song. And I can't add it to the In Madness playlist because it's like not available on Spotify for some reason, which angers me deeply.
Hmm.
So if I ever talk to the Deftones, I'll be like, put "Teething" on Spotify, please. But yeah, shout out to Deftones, one of the best of all time. T-Bird revs the engine and hauls ass out of there. Skank from inside the store sees Eric holding the gun to T-Bird's head and says another one of my favorite lines that I use pretty much every week. What is this happy horse shit? Goes running out of the store into traffic screaming for T-Bird till Skank gets hit by this little car. Sort of reminds me of the big tall man in the tiny car from an episode of The Simpsons where Nelson laughs at the guy, so he makes Nelson walk with his pants down and wave to everybody while he follows him beeping the horn with the car. Wave to the people, blow them kisses. So the dude gets out pissed. He calls Skank an asshair, but Skank punches him in the gut and steals his tiny car. T-Bird asks Eric what he wants. Drugs, money? He says, we could use you. You did Tintin, right? This is business. Eric cocks the gun and tells him to drive faster, which is a lyric from Passenger.
Mm-hmm.
T-Bird cranks it to 100 miles per hour. They are flying through the street. We see a pair of cops parked drinking coffee, asking for that cream stuff. He hates that they can't legally call it cream. T-Bird flies right past them. The driver of the vehicle goes, what the crap? Tosses his coffee out the window and hauls ass and hits a hard right. And poor creamer cop, his buddy, is spilling boiling hot coffee all over himself. T-Bird's being chased. He tells Eric, you're making us popular. When they flash us like that, they ain't friends. The chase is on. For a brief moment in the lights, the cops can see Eric with his face paint in the back seat. The cops look at each other puzzled. Skank is flying down an alley. He sees T-Bird blast by. He screams for him, and as Skank pops out the alley, the cop car T-bones his ass, and Skank gets knocked out of the car and crawls away. Cut to the docks. T-Bird's yelling, I remember everything. He asks Eric what he's talking about. T-Bird is confused. He's panicking. Eric has him tied up in the driver's seat of the car. T-Bird is taped to the seat. He's talking with Eric. You mean the place downtown? Yeah, I remember her. We need to put some fear into that little lady. He's talking about Shelly. Meanwhile, Eric is looking through the dozens of sticks of dynamite in T-Bird's trunk. T-Bird says she wasn't going along with our tenant relocation program. Then the idiot boyfriend shows up and turns a simple sweep and clear into a total clusterfuck. Who gives a shit? It's ancient history.
And what were they sweeping and clearing for? They didn't end up doing anything with the building. That's so confusing. So confusing.
Eric closes the trunk and walks back to T-Bird with a grenade and duct tape. T-Bird is begging him, what? What do you want? Speak to me. Eric tears open the duct tape and looks T-Bird in the eye. We get a flashback of the goons kicking open their apartment door. T-Bird asking Shelly if she sent this list of complaints, slugs her in the face and begins reading the poem, A Bash the Devil Stood. He looks Eric in the eye and says, I know you. I know you. I knew you. But you ain't you. You can't be you. We put you through the window. There ain't no coming back. This is the really real world. There ain't no coming back. We killed you dead. There ain't no coming back. I really love that he references like this is the real world. Like this isn't some comic book shit. You can't do this. Like it kind of makes it feel less like Gotham and more like real life. Where like how is this dude back from the dead?
Right. And also it's pretty crazy though that he remembers the quote that he read from Milton's Paradise Lost a year before. Like how many drugs has this guy done? And he's able to just
He said he
cite that
remembers
quote.
everything. He said he
Yeah, he
remembers
cites
everything.
that quote again. Maybe
In
he
the-
should have used some of this brain power for something else.
His
maybe.
other 100% of his brain cells, like Lucy.
Yeah.
In the background, there is this incredible, heart-wrenching choir singing as Eric is duct taping T-Bird's head to the seat. T-Bird is freaking out. There ain't no coming back. He keeps saying it. There ain't no coming back. Absolutely incredible. Skank stumbles his ass up to the dock using a bungee strap. Eric pulls it, which forces T-Bird's foot all the way down on the accelerator. The engine is revving, which brings me to one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever. Almost crying, T-Bird is reciting the poem. Once again, abashed, the devil stood and felt how awful goodness is. He repeats, and felt how awful goodness is. Eric pops the clip on the grenade. It begins to spark. Eric dumps it right in between T-Bird's legs. Eric puts the car in drive, and it flies away. And with 2 fingers, Eric waves goodbye. He begins squirting gas all around him. T-Bird's car is racing off the dock. Eric pops open a lighter. He lights it, and off the dock goes T-Bird and kablooey. Car goes flying off the dock, exploding into the water. Skank can't believe his eyes. Eric throws the lighter on the floor, and fire creeps around into this giant pattern he's made on the floor, igniting it into an enormous crow. The crow signal. Eric walks away as the crow flies onto his shoulder. All the while, the choir is still singing in the background. Absolutely amazing. One of the best scenes ever.
And it is funny though. When did he draw that symbol, that perfect crow symbol on the ground? In the time it took him to drive down the end of the pier and explodes? That's pretty amazing. I mean, he has some superpowers, but apparently one of them is to be able to illustrate a perfect crow silhouette
really
in
fast.
lighter fluid, really fast. I like that. Just a quick story. So I mentioned before in another podcast that I went to the Joe Kubert School for a year of cartooning and graphic art in North Jersey. And what I don't know that I mentioned is I was actually the RA of the dorm building that we lived in, and it was what they called a mansion. And there was a carport and everything. It was the original school, and then it became dorm housing. So there's 20-something comic book geeks, 23 or something of us in there, and I was supposed to be the RA. It was basically just make sure people take the trash out and stuff. But it became, what you're going to do, put all these comic geeks in one spot, and we're going to try to do weird things. So one night I'm outside my room sitting on the top of the carport, and when you go to art school, you get rubber cement and you get rubber cement thinner. You might not get that now, but now everybody has taken to this large driveway and are drawing in the driveway in rubber cement thinner and then like lighting it on fire in the driveway. So somebody's making like the X-Man, the big X and all this in the driveway. And the worst thing about it is at that time, Debbie Kubert, who ran the school, and I think I don't know if she was Joe's daughter or she was married to one of the other Kuberts. She just happens to walk up on it because she lived in the neighborhood and kind of heard a ruckus. And then she's like, and who's that up there? And I'm, on top of the carport drinking beers, laughing at all the guys lighting the driveway on fire. And I was supposed to be in charge of this situation. But but nobody could draw in rubber cement thinner as well as this guy was able to draw super fast. So he's also a fantastic illustrator as well.
Musician, artist, he can do it all. Come back to Grange at Eric Draven's Grainstone. It's just as Eric left it. Apparently, there's no groundskeeper at this place because the goddamn coffin lid is pushed open like someone just crawled out of the ground. So either you got a zombie problem or a grave robbing issue. Either way, there's total lawlessness in this place, which I'm still considering to be Detroit City Gotham.
Yeah.
Cut to Darla at home making eggs for Sarah, who wakes up on the couch holding her hangman's joke record, becomes very confused, tells Darla she doesn't like eggs. Darla thought she loved them. Sarah said when she was 5. Darla's like, what do you like now? Black coffee and cigarettes? Sarah asks what Darla took to become Mother of the Year. She says she's not on drugs. Someone woke her up. Curiously, but feeling like she already knows, Sarah asks who. Darla says it's nuts. Sarah tells her she's acting weird. Did you win lottery or something, Darla? And she gets pissed and says, forget it. I was never good at this mommy shit, and goes to throw everything away. And in a panic, Sarah stops her and tells her she loves some eggs and calls her mom. The girls have a little laugh and a real mother-daughter moment.
So right here we see the magic. This is his kind of superhero moment, I guess, right? He's bringing them back together. She's realizing she needs to be a mom, and Sarah's going to accept this. So maybe he is a superhero after all, Shawn.
His hero's arc, as you like to say.
Yeah, well, his hero's journey. Yeah,
His hero's journey, yes.
but he's not on. I don't know that he's on a hero's journey.
No, it doesn't seem
Yeah,
like it.
yeah. But in this next scene, we get evidence of his magic at work again almost immediately. What happens at the beginning of this next scene?
Well, back at the precinct, Albrecht looks like he's having a great day till Torres calls him into his office. He tells
Yeah,
him
and
he's
he
had,
comes in. I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah,
He's bouncing and smiling when he comes in that room. So I'm thinking, much like Darla with the drugs, that this conversation with him about love and Eric and his wife and the divorce, I think they're back together. That's what I'm going to guess, just from him bouncing as he walks in and smiling, because he hasn't solved. He kind of knows more about the case and knows what the deal is, but I think, much like he was able to pull that out of Darla, I think something happened there when he was interacting with him, and maybe he realized, I really need to be with this person. That's what I'd like to think.
Eric Draven does good for all people around him.
Mm-hmm.
Torres tells him he's had 3 hits in his hood in the last 24 hours. We just fished this out of the river, and he hands him a picture of a very crispy T-bird. Torres says he's fused to his own car. We're going to have to ID his teeth, and Albrecht tells Torres his name is T-bird. Arson was his specialty. Looks like he zigged when he should have zagged. Torres gets pissed. You're holding out on me. I got goddamn vigilante killer knocking off scumbags left and right, and you're covering it up. Who's the cartoon character with the painted face? Albrecht says, you're the detective. Tell me. Torres says, Gideon's blows to hell, and you're chit-chatting with some weirdo who winds up in T-Bird's car when it zigs instead of zags. You steal my case file from homicide, and you say this is a fucking automobile accident? Albrecht is a smartass and says, yeah, good speech, though. Torres tells him he's suspended for misconduct. Sarah sneaks back into Shelley and Eric's old apartment. Eric is burning pictures of him and Shelley. He senses Sarah approaching. She enters the apartment. She calls for Eric. She thinks she's going crazy and then finds Gabriel, the cat. She thought the cat was dead and then asks it if it's dead. Sarah sees the smoke from the fire Eric just put out. She says, I knew it was you even with the makeup. I remember your song. You said it can't rain all the time, but she gets no response. And then again, the horribly sad score that runs as a theme throughout this movie kicks in. And Sarah says, come on, Eric, I know you're here. I miss you and Shelley. I get so lonely by myself. Still getting no response. She gets mad and goes to leave and says, the hell with you. I thought you cared. As she's leaving, the light shines. She sees his silhouette, turns around, and there's Eric, who says, Sarah, I do care. She runs to him and the two embrace. Cut the skank. He's with Top Dollar and Grange, being shown the picture of Eric's band, Hangman's Joke. Skank scared as hell. He's pointing at Eric's face. It's him, but he looked different. He was all painted up like some dead whore. Skank goes on to explain how Eric killed T-Bird. However, he's acting completely erratic and insane, and the whole time, Top Dollar is sort of watching him and laughing at him and tells Grange we should videotape this and play it back in slow motion. Top asks Grange if he saw the grave. Grange says empty, and Skank stops in his track. Grave? What grave? What about my fucking grave? Skank runs up to Grange, who shoves him off. Grange tells Top Eric has killed 3 out of the 4, and he's working back to this speed freak, Skank. Skank says it's all Fun Boy's fault. He's out of control. T-Bird said waste them both, and now this ghost is going to kill my ass next. Top gets up and slaps the shit out of Skank, and he's still crying. That ghost is going to kill my ass next. Top grabs Skank by the chin and says, it ain't no ghost. Top's sister tells him they have all arrived. Top tells Grange to watch Skank because they might need him.
But what do they need him for? Skank is these are lousy employees that Top Dollar has. None of them are that good at their jobs, I don't think.
I think they're saving him for bait.
Yeah, that's true. Agreed.
Cut back to the gross hot dog stand. Sarah is there with Gabriel the cat. Suspended Albrecht pulls up in his car. Another great song, The Darkness from Rage Against the Machine, is playing in the background, adding to the In Madness playlist. Albrecht asks Sarah if the cat likes its hot dog plain or with onions, and she doesn't say anything. Albrecht gets annoyed. She asks him, when someone's dead, they can't come back, can they? He says he thought so. She asks if he's seen Eric. He says he saw somebody, probably your fairy godfather. She says Eric didn't come back for her. He can't be my friend because I'm alive. Albrecht tells Sarah he'll walk her home. Cut to Eric on the roof ripping another Slash solo throughout the streets of Gotham City, Detroit on his guitar. Then he goes full rock star like Vertebrae33 in his Kiss makeup and smashes this thing to pieces on the roof. Cut to another one of my favorite songs on this soundtrack, After the Flesh by My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, adding right now to the In Madness playlist.
You can't add them all, Shawn.
Oh, dude, I want to. I mean, I don't even know much about My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, but this song is probably one of my favorites off the entire soundtrack.
Yeah, they I was into them. I think I have a couple of their stuff albums on cassette, but they, were of that kind of Wax Trax Chicago industrial ilk sort of. I don't know that they were on Wax Trax records, but it's definitely of that grouping, Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, kind of in that group of bands.
We're at Top Dollar's club, show is going on. Awesome venue. We need one of these here in Long Island. The camera pans across a long table that's full of gangsters, cash, guns, money, drugs, all over the table. Everyone's loading up, getting ready for Devil's Night. Top sits at the head of the table, tells everyone T-Bird will not be joining us because of a slight case of death. Grange is holding a bloody, battered Skank and shoves him down into his seat. Top says, it's Devil's Night once again. I thought we'd throw a little party, start a bunch of fires, make a little profit somehow. But the problem is it's all been done before. One of the mob bosses says, no reason to quit. And Top says, wrong. Best reason to quit. Only reason to quit. Man has an idea. Idea attracts others. Idea expands, becomes an institution. What was the idea? That's what's been bothering me. I tell you, when I used to think of the idea itself, it put a big old smile on my face. Greed is for amateurs. Disorder, chaos, anarchy. That's fun. Another boss says, what about Devil's Night? Outside the room, the camera pans sideways, and there he is, Eric, lurking outside an open window, listening to their conversation. Top says, I started the first fires in this city before I knew it. Everyone was imitating me. You know what they got now? Devil's Night greeting cards. Isn't that precious? The idea has become the institution. Time to move along. A boss asks, you don't want to do light my fire time for the whole city? Top says, no. I want you to set a fire so goddamn big the gods will notice us again. I want all you to look me straight in the eye and say, are we having fun or what?
This plan makes absolutely no sense. This whole scene makes absolutely no sense. It's a cool scene, but like he starts out with saying, we can't do Devil's Night. They got greeting cards. This is awful. We got to do something else. And they're like, okay, boss, what's the something else? And he's like, we'll just make a bigger fire. Like that fire stunk, but let's make a bigger one that, a lot more people will see. It's a weird business. This is a weird moment. Although this moment is almost recreated in a lot of ways in The Dark Knight when we get the Joker come in to the gangs and they're all together and the money and all of that stuff. And, you could see a lot of it there. It's very cool. I don't know any of these other thugs' names in the scene. These guys.
I don't think any of them. They're just jabronis.
There's a guy there with like a hood and sunglasses on, and next
to what it's like? It's like
Hans beret.
Yeah, it's like Hans Gruber's posse. It's just a bunch of like dudes.
Yeah. The guy with the beret cracks me up. But they're all there and they're all there for it. I don't know. I still don't know how they make any money. Somebody write into us and tell us how they do sell drugs.
Part of Top Dollar's gang, let us know how profit is created in this gang.
Right, because Devil's Night seems like the most important night of the year for them. Right, this is their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, what are they getting off it? They were mad that she complained about the building she lived in, Shelley, but then they just left the building empty after she was gone anyway. They left the window broken. It's been raining in that window. It rains in that place all the time. So it's been pouring rain in that window for an entire year. Yeah, he's got no plans here.
Top yells at Skank, hey, you, what's your name? Skank? You don't feel that? Skank says he feels like a little worm on a big fucking hook. Everyone laughs at him. Top says, your mama must be damn proud of you. And the crow lands on the table. Skank gets horrified. Top's sister becomes intrigued. Top is curious. How the hell did that thing get in here? Eric storms in the room. Gentlemen, Skank screams. Eric hops on the table and sits down. Top says, so you're him, the Avenger, killer of killers. Nice outfit. Not sure about the face, though. Eric points at Skank. I just want him. And Top says, well, you can't have him. Eric stands up and says, well, I see you've made your decision. Now let's see you enforce it. And Top screams, this is already boring the shit out of me. Kill him. And all the men out on the table start firing about 100 shots. Eric falls backward off the table and Top says, oh, that had to hurt. The men all laugh. Top's sister goes to grab the crow, but it flies off. One of the goons, the one with the beret, goes to search for Eric's body, and it's gone. And pop, right through his little beret hat goes a bullet, which now leads us to this incredibly violent shootout with Eric and all the gangsters, and he's just picking them all off one by one. This awesome song, After the Flesh, is playing in the background. Pure badass.
I think there's more than one guy with a beret on. That was the...
It's like the Warriors and they're the beret gang.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. There's certain sects of this. There's certain groups.
The baseball guys were all the way at the back of the table.
Yeah.
Top Dollar's always making fun of him for painting their face like he just did with Eric.
Yeah.
Eric throws one dude out the window. He crashes through the middle of the venue, so the music stops. The whole club clears out. In a panic, Eric picks off the last of these dudes, and there's total silence. No band, no crowd, no guns, just Skank, scared under a table. One of the swords Eric used to kill a gangster is sticking out from the table. He walks across and shoves the sword down right above Skank's head. He screams and runs out from under, but Eric grabs him and hits him with the amazing quote, guess it's not a good day to be a bad guy, huh, Skank? Skank throws his head and looks over another guy and says, I'm not Skank. That's Skank right there. Skank's dead. Eric says, that's right, and throws his ass out a window. Skank lands on the same cop car that T-boned him earlier, and Cream Cop gets out, and the other cop says his famous line, what the crap? Cops raid the room and point their guns at Eric and tell him to freeze, and he puts his hand up, and he, like, Charlie Chaplin dances away.
Yeah, that was funny.
The cops begin firing at him. Albrecht pulls up in street clothes in his car and sees all this going down. Eric runs across rooftops with a helicopter chasing and shooting at him. Albrecht follows the chopper as Eric is fleeing. Eric does a swan dive off a roof and lands on a pile of trash. Albrecht pulls up, opens his door, and tells him to get in. Eric hops in and he says, next time, duck. The boys slide the hell out of there. Albrecht says, so many cops, you think they're giving away donuts. A cop car cuts him off and he stops. He looks over and Eric has already opened the door and fled from the car. There's blood all over the seat. And he says, I knew you were going to do that.
He's making a Batman move. This is really cool too when he's on the rooftops. Like these sets that they build are really neat looking, and it's almost a throwback to kind of some old horror movies where it's clear that it's like a set, but it doesn't take away from the look of the film because it fits in with the models that they built for the overhead shots, and so it gives it this overall, really weird look. And the way it's shot, the director wanted to shoot it all in black and white like the comic was, but the studio wasn't having it, so they had to kind of do this filtered look to things. In certain areas are brighter in color, but then most of it, it's much darker. It would have been really interesting to see it pure black and white. We obviously then get that with Sin City when Sin City becomes a film and they do the black and white and add color at certain pops of color to go along with the comic there. But at this time they weren't able to do that. But it does have just a cool look. That whole on the rooftops is really neat look as well.
Top Dollar's driving over a bridge, looking over Detroit City, Gotham. Depressed as all hell because there's total peace, tranquility. Look at it out there, he says. Whole city ought to be burning in flames by now. The sky ought to be red. Grange, who's driving, says, I take it that was the late, great Eric Draven. Top's sister tells him he has power. It's power you can take from him. The crow is his link between the land of the living and the realm of the dead. Grange says, kill the crow, destroy the man.
Wait, so how does she know this?
She's got like intuition, I like to think.
Yeah.
Because of eyes. She like eats eyeballs or whatever. Whatever she's doing with those, she's cooking the eyeballs, breathing in the eyeballs, probably eating the eyeballs, having sex with the eyeballs. Yeah.
This kind of comes out of nowhere. We could have used a little bit of backstory, maybe that she could have said, when she was a child, there was once an incident or something, and that's something you observe something, because it kind of comes out of nowhere, and then the both of them are like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, that's what it is, and that'll work, and let's go for it.
I know Vertebrae loves a good explanation.
Yeah, just a little bit of explanation on that one.
Eric is walking in the streets. He removes Tintin's coat and chucks it. He sadly says, I'm coming home, Shelley. His job is done, and a group of kids in Halloween masks run past him, laughing, having fun, shining flashlights in Eric's face. He looks enthralled, happy. He's laughing with the kids as they're running around him, laughing and chasing. There is this amazing shot. It's just so insane, the plot of this movie and the real tragic story behind it. And this amazing shot we get, these kids laughing, and it's almost like a tribute shot to Brandon Lee, because the camera slows down and pauses on his smiling face and he's laughing, and it's like this memoriam to like the actor and the character. It's just so amazing. It's so well done, this whole movie, everything behind it. I think it's why I feel like this movie is sacred ground. It means so much to me. It's more the story behind it and how it's almost directly linked to the actual story of the person who like starred in it, instead of this new movie that looks like John Wick action film or whatever. But anyway,
Right. And it won't be, if you listen to this podcast in the future, you'll have already seen The Crow 2024, right? Whenever you listen to this. But yeah, and James O'Barr had a connection, kind of connected up with Brandon Lee in this, and then he sort of reveals later on that he took no money, like he donated the money that he received for the film because he felt weird about it. And a lot of people come out of this film weird. The girl who plays Sarah kind of disappears from acting and never really acts again. She'll make a few convention kind of appearances and stuff here and there now, but I think it was too much to handle at her age, being on that set. I'm sure they all kind of, seems like, although it's a dark movie, it seems like it's probably a pretty fun set. He seems like a cool dude. They connect a little bit. He passes away, and then she's young and having to answer questions about this. You can easily see why she wanted to distance herself from it. The ironic thing, Shawn, I'll say, is that there is talk now, and just quickly, that about the new movie being disrespectful, but that talk's a little weird because they went on to make sequels and then like a TV series, a season of a TV series. So I don't think it's disrespectful if you go back to the original source material. I think it's just going to be really, really hard to touch any of what's in this film.
The charm that this movie has.
Yes, kind of warts and all, right? Kind of some weirdness and quirky lines that make it fun, and the way it was shot. I don't think you can, all the effects in the world, I don't think you can replicate that. And I think more importantly, more than any of that, is sort of his star power that he exudes in this entire film. He's a scene stealer. So it's going to be pretty hard to top that.
Eric's at Shelley's grave. Sarah's laying on the ground asleep at the grave. Eric walks over. Sarah jokes and tells him, you're going to say I shouldn't be in the cemetery in the middle of the night. And he says it's the safest place in the world to be. She says it's because everyone's dead, and she knew he'd go there. She's upset he didn't say goodbye. She's sad he's never coming back. He removes the wedding ring, which he has made a necklace, which he wore around his neck the whole movie, and he gives it to Sarah and says he gave it to Shelley once, and he thinks she'd like Sarah to have it so she can always remember her. Sarah says she'll never take it off and hugs Eric. She goes to leave and sadly says bye. Sarah walks past a church, and there's Grange, who snatches her up and walks in the church where Top and his sister are waiting. Top snatches the necklace off her neck, says he'll keep it for good luck. His sister looks in Sarah's eyes and says they're so innocent. Eric goes to touch Shelley's grave, and Sarah yells. The crow hears it and sees it, which makes Eric hear it and see it, and he runs off to save her. Quickly, sidebar, just because it's popping in my head right now. We got T-Bird, Tintin, Fun Boy, Skank. We got Top Dollar. We got his sister, and then we got Grange.
Mm-hmm.
We have our
Shawn?
We have our 7 villains in this movie.
Yes,
It
is.
What sins represent who?
Oh God, these guys have them all. Each per, they got all 7.
Everything.
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
We get the iconic poster shot of Eric pushing open the church doors and the light shining in behind him, the rain pouring behind him. Mostly you just see his silhouette. It's fucking awesome.
It's such a cool shot. And it almost makes no sense to rescue her by walking in the church so slowly. But it's an amazing shot. But like, when we're watching these movies and you watch it a bunch of times, like, oh, I remember that iconic shot. So I've seen it a bunch, and then I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, but like he was coming quickly to help her, but then can't cut into my badass entrance here. So I still just stroll in.
He walks in the church, the crow flies in after him. Grange pops up, aims a rifle at Eric, then alters his position to the crow and shoots the crow. Top Dollar comes out from behind a door, and we have our stare down. Hero versus villain, Top versus Eric, good versus evil. Top gives us a little of his comedy routine. Quick impression for you. Caw, bang, fuck, I'm dead. Eric says, give me the girl and I'll let you walk out of here. Top says, give me a minute to think about that, turns around and walks away, and we see the crow on the floor hopping around. It just got shot, but it's still alive. Top says, nah, fuck it. Turns around and pumps a shot into Eric's shoulder. Eric touches the blood, laughs, and says, ah, fuck, and falls to the floor injured. Top beats the shit out of Eric and says, for a ghost, you bleed just fine. Grange goes off to finish the crow. But in walks Albrecht and starts shooting the place up. The church is getting lit up. Top sister grabs the injured crow and runs off. Albrecht picks off Grange. Eric tells him they took Sarah. Albrecht tells Eric to stay in front, and when they run out of ammo, he'll arrest them. Eric says it sounds like a great plan, but he's bleeding everywhere, and Albrecht is shocked. I thought you were invincible. Eric says, I was, but I'm not anymore. Top hands his sister a gun. They have a long, gross, incestual brother-sister makeout session. Albrecht starts firing, and Top's sister shoots him, and they run off. Eric says, you were supposed to stay behind me, and Albrecht says, I think I messed up. Eric runs into Top's sister, pointing a gun at him, holding the crow, telling him all the power you ever had is mine. She says, pity there is not more time for us, and points the gun at Eric. But like the birds, the crow begins pecking at her face and claws and pecks out her eyeballs. She falls off the ledge and grabs onto the rope hanging from a bell. The bell begins ringing, and she falls her ass all the way down and dies.
So we get the birds, and then we get Vertigo right afterwards. Hitchcock Vertigo reference as well right after.
Never saw that one. I gotta check that one out. Top is on the roof with Sarah, pouring rain. Eric walks out, says to let her go. You can have me, I won't fight you. Top says okay, but chucks Sarah off the roof anyway and hits Eric. Sarah hangs on the edge while Top and him fight it out on the roof in the rain. Eric goes to grab the sharp weather vane on top of the church, and as he grabs it, lightning strikes it, perhaps giving him that last jolt of superhuman energy he needs. He pulls it out of the roof and begins using it as a sword. The men battle it out. Top falls through a hole in the roof, and Eric's ring slides away from him. Eric goes to grab Sarah, but from behind creeps up Top and stab right through Eric's back. Top tears through him with his sword. He pulls it out, and Eric folds into a corner. Top throws away the sword and kneels in front of him and says, my daddy used to say every man's got a devil. You can't rest till you find him. What happened back there with you and your girlfriend? I cleared that building. Nothing here happens without my say-so. Sorry if I spoiled your wedding plans, but if it's any consolation, you have put a smile on my face. You got a lot of spirit. I am going to miss you, as he raises a sharp knife ready to kill Eric. Eric says, I have something for you. I don't want it anymore. Slaps a big fat hand right on the Top's goddamn face and giving him flashbacks of Shelly in the ICU. He says 30 hours of pain all at once, all for you. Top falls off the church, and there are these fucking gargoyles with spikes on their head with rainwater pouring out of their mouth. Then Top falls right onto one, and it impales him, and instead of rain, all of his blood is pouring out of this gargoyle's mouth. It is awesome.
I want one of those gargoyles on my
roof, it's so sick.
That'd be cool. I don't want somebody landing on it, but I would like one of them on like, instead of having regular gutters on the corner of the house, if you just had gargoyles where the water came down out of the mouth or something. That's pretty cool.
All of this reminds me of the original Batman movie. I don't know what year that came out, if that was before or after this, but the fight with Batman and the Joker on like the bell tower.
It was before. Batman came out in 89.
Yeah, so like, with Top Sister falling down the
Yeah.
thing, one of the bad guys fall, and I think he even rings the bell as he falls down the thing, and then you got
Right.
them on the roof battling it out. So it reminds me a lot of that.
Yeah, so
Eric,
Batman comes out in 89. And I think a lot of stuff is influenced after that. It's probably how this even eventually gets made, is the fact that that movie comes out and is so successful. And after that, people are trying to figure out ways to make it. That movie actually comes out the same year as the comic for The Crow comes out. So that's really interesting. So it's something in the water at that time. James O'Barr, on one of it's like the DVD or something like that, he mentions that the studio mentioned wanting to make this a musical and having Michael Jackson star
oh,
in it at
oh
one
my
point.
lord,
Yeah.
oh my lord! Isn't the next Joker movie supposed to be a musical?
Yeah, that's gonna be. I'm not crazy about singing in my movies,
Yeah,
so
I'm
that might.
not.
Yeah.
I'm not either. But I am intrigued. That is bizarre. Eric grabs Sarah, tells her to help Albrecht. He says he needs a cigarette. Eric grabs one for him. Eric says, "What you kept in your head saved me." He thanks Albrecht. Eric lights a cigarette, hands it to him. Albrecht takes one puff, coughs, and spits it in disgust. Says, "I'm quitting now if I live." They all have a laugh. Eric tells Sarah to stay with him till help comes. She asks if Albrecht will be okay and looks back, and Eric is gone. Albrecht laughs and says he does that a lot. There is such charming storytelling going on. I cannot see another version of this movie being so charming and emotional and funny and entertaining and sad and depressing and uplifting and violent and victorious. This movie
Mhm.
gives me every emotion imaginable. They do not make them like this anymore.
Right, and we get Albrecht is like our Commissioner Gordon in
Yeah.
their relationship, and he's probably, if you like to think that he's one of the cops that's constantly trying to investigate this gang, and other people are telling him to back off. And now we see kind of how much they're affecting each other's lives. Eric is affecting his life a lot, and Eric's made a couple friends in his short, I think it's like 2 days or something that this takes place over, not 7 days, 2 days. But yes, the charm of this film is going to be hard to top.
Eric goes back and lays on Shelley's grave. Albrecht is being wheeled out in a stretcher. He tells Sarah, at least it stopped raining, and she says it can't rain all the time. Torres is shocked to see Albrecht. Torres asks, what's going on? He says, your vigilante's up on the roof. He pulls Torres in by his tie and once again says, you missed it. He laughs and he's wheeled off. Eric laying on Shelley's grave. Once again, the horribly sad score that plays as a theme, thematically, systematically breaking me wide open throughout this movie begins playing. We see Shelley in white approaching Eric. Her hand touches his face. His eyes roll back. He looks at her. He has avenged her death. The two kiss and now can be together forever.
And you know what's crazy, Shawn, is if you watch it again, there's smoke coming off of his body in this scene. I don't know what that's supposed to signify, but there's smoke kind of. I mean, when he breathes, you see his breath, but there's also some. I never noticed it before until we watched it for this.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's him crossing over.
Yeah.
We then see both the graves. Eric's now closed, leaves over the resting place. The crow lands on Eric's grave with the ring in its mouth. Sarah walks over. The crow drops the ring in her hand. She says thanks and turns around and walks away in slow motion. If this movie doesn't break you emotionally wide the fuck open, you're not human. You need to check your pulse. You might be dead. I love this goddamn movie. If that's not great and sad and touching and emotional enough, we get our brilliant final shot of the crow flying over Detroit City, Gotham, and our beautiful closing monologue from Sarah. If the people we love are stolen from us, the way to have them live on is to never stop loving them. Buildings burn, people die, but real love is forever. On the screen, it says, for Brandon and Eliza, the end.
Yeah, and Shawn,
God.
right before that, the crow gives her the ring. They're on the gravestone, and he gives her the ring. I'd like to think that's magic because he did such a good job. That's the one Raven, we know his name, that does it. And this is a lot because you're sad for her. She's got her mom back, and he did what he needed to do. But Brandon Lee's such a nice, see, you can't even separate. I just said the actor's name instead of Eric Draven.
Eric
That's
Draven,
why it's
yeah.
hard to separate the two, really, in this film. He's such a nice guy that he even takes care of the groundskeeping at the cemetery because it's nice and covered over after he goes back in the grave. I don't know how that works out like that. There was a hole there for a year or whatever, not a year, a few days or whatever. Nobody cleared it. But yeah, this is well, you made it through without crying. You didn't cry.
Man, I almost broke. It is so good. It is so charming. Like every time I watch it, I really want to, because as I was listening to like the score that plays, like the really depressing emotional score,
Mhm.
I'm like, why is that not on the soundtrack with Pantera and Rage Against the Machine? I didn't know that there was like a separate score version, so I'm really interested to check that out. But like this movie, it just does everything for me, and I've been obsessed with it since I was 10 years old. Just the freakiness and the lore behind it. I just feel like there's such a story before the movie even comes out. Like it's such a crazy thing that went down and how it all happened and the story and how it kind of all blends together. It's so wild, so wild.
Yeah, and I did take notes on Brandon Lee's passing, but as we went through this film, I just kind of decided in my head there's just no reason. If you want to look that up, go ahead and look it up. I don't think we need to be going through kind of the bit by bit on it. There's certainly a lot of reporting on it. Um, and I think in a lot of ways, this movie being connected, obviously directly connected with that, adds a weight to the film, but I still think that if that tragedy doesn't happen, this film is still incredibly influential and has its own weight to it. Obviously, that adds an extra piece to it. Um, but this is a film that really affected a lot of people, and uh, I think started a whole another generation of goths just based off of what they saw, young kids seeing this movie and then really gets into it. you know um Obviously there's changes from the comic and the film, but one of the big changes, there's this skull cowboy character who gives a lot of exposition about this deal and basically kind of tells them, hey, you have a couple days and you got to do this and then you're going to go back or whatever. But they actually edited him out of the film. Some shots were, they filmed some shots, took them out and replaced it with Sarah's narration. And I think Sarah's narration works really well in this. I get at the ending scene in the rain too heavy Blade Runner too, with this fight on the roof and the rain as well, which came out in '82, and I know we'll definitely get to Blade Runner, um, which was originally narrated as well. But this crime noir genre that we loved so much a year later in Seven, and most recently in the Batman, kind of some ground rules get laid out here that people continue to follow as they move forward. And I think if you want to touch on this IP again, which they obviously are, we've said it a million times. I think there was ways to go to get closer to the source material if you wanted, and maybe benefit of the doubt, maybe it's just a struggle to reach this. I don't remember the sequels that much, Shawn. Do you?
I only remember the second one because it was when I had illegal cable and it would just be on over and over and over again on the same channel for a month. And because I loved this movie so much, I had to watch the second one. So I actually think I have it taped somewhere on VHS, but I don't really remember anything from it, or I just remember it not being nearly as good or even coming anywhere close to this one.
Right. That's City of Angels.
Yes.
Mir Kirshner stars, and then there's Salvation,
What
right?
is it?
And then
Fucking Terminator movies?
yeah, yeah, and then there was a TV series that they did for a year.
Which one was that? Was that Ed Furlong?
Yes, yeah, which I've never seen.
No, no, I don't want to. I'm just going to. I leave it at this, at The Crow with Brandon Lee, the late great, rest in peace. Just one of my favorite friggin' movies ever. So good, so good. I love it. I love it. And this is what got me into horror. Like that Halloween trailer at the beginning. I mean, like this movie's, I feel like, singularly changed my path to like what I liked and what I. daring myself to like challenge myself to watch like a horror movie finally, because I was like, this looks so cool. I need to be a part of this. It's like instead of hearing like Metallica, you get like a clip of a song, and it's like I just lived off that clip of that song. It's like I need to finally hear Metallica, and then you do it. It's like whoa. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's awesome. I want anyone that saw to describe when they first saw this movie to us. If you want to send an email or do it on the socials. But this was a fun ride.
You got all your bits in, all your gnarly bits.
I think so. I think the only one that I kind of missed was there was a quote with Darla's mom: "Mother is name of God on the name of God on the lips and hearts of little children," and that was a quote by William Makepeace Thackeray, who was a illustrator and writer, and he lived from 1811 to 1863, and that was in the comic as well. So you can tell James O'Barr did his research. He's got Milton's Paradise Lost, and he's got Thackeray in there as well. But yeah, I think that's it.
Do you have the comic?
I do. I have the kitchen sink. I have it.
Oh shit, go get it. Hell yeah.
I have it right here because I reread it.
So there's only one comic.
No, so it was originally released in issues. So that's why they call it a graphic novel, but it's really not, because it was kind of like a bunch of parts to it. And then the version I have is when the movie was about to come out, they kind of released them all together. So it says like at the top now, major motion
like a compendium or whatever. Yeah.
So this comes out in like 93 or 94. I don't have like the original Caliber or Tundra comics. I would imagine it was a big deal to a lot of people, but I imagine those are pretty hard to get. And it was broken up over a period of time as well. But this was a big deal when it came out in advance for people who were into comics. And this is one of the ones where people are like, well, how are they going to make this movie? So we get that a lot. Like, how are you going to put this on screen? And I think sometimes it's in reference to how they're going to do the CG on this, because, how do you film Dune, for example, right? This incredible book. How do you get that on screen? Well, we can do it now. But I think this is more about just what this comic meant to a lot of people, and kind of the culture and the goth culture and the 90s kind of music culture that late 80s, early 90s music culture that he's tapping into as well.
If you have any of these comic books, if you bought the originals, if you were there when this shit was popping before I was even knowing that it existed, I want to see your pictures. I want to hear your comments, anything about this movie, about this episode, about any of our previous or prior episodes on all of the socials at In Madness Pod, inmadnesspod@gmail.com, dipping into the mail sack for our next episode, reading your emails on the air. If you want to be part of the show, email us, inmadnesspod@gmail.com. We are on YouTube. Give us the 5 stars, give us the likes and the comments. We got the In Madness Spotify playlist, which is growing more and more epic every single week. We are getting to the point where we're adding like 5 songs per episode to the playlist. One of the best to listen to out there. Happy In Madness Monday. If this is when you're listening, tell everyone you know about this podcast. Bring everybody in on the fun. And if you want a shirt, if your friends want a shirt, if grandmommy wants a shirt, inmadness.com. We got brand new shirts. And I'm looking forward to our next episode, because we are going to dive into the mail sack. I also got some shout outs. We got some really cool people who have been representing for In Madness that I want to say thank you to. But for now, that's it, Vertebrae. That's it for the Crow. You feel satisfied with your Crow experience?
I feel satisfied, Shawn, and all I'm going to say is I'm about to recede.
There he goes into the darkness, back into the grave with Vertebrae33. The Crow will come in and we will resurrect Vertebrae33 for next week's brand new episode 29.5. Thank you for joining us, for wrapping up the Crow with us. This has been In Madness Pod.